Spider Solitaire is bullshit anyway.
Episode 48, all day, every day. Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Between the Pixels. My name is Jared Ryman. Joining me today are Devin Miller.
How many nuts can a chipmunk stuff into his cheeks?
22.
14. What
Six,
nuts?
6. It's 6, actually.
What kind of nuts?
Regular nuts.
Yeah, what if they're huge nuts?
What if they're walnuts?
They don't eat walnuts, just nuts.
You don't know that. And Chase Coleman.
A kangaroo cannot hop backwards.
Chase, that's obvious. Jeez, bring something worthwhile.
You know, I really feel offended that you're stealing my thunder with these animal facts right now.
He's not an animal, he's a rodent.
They're all animals. Chase started the animal craze, and then Devin had to steal it. I'm going to start bringing back the riddles.
You don't have any riddles.
I know, I ran out of riddles. Riddles next week. Next week, look for riddles. So, Devin, since you like video games, tell us what you've been playing this week.
I can tell you.
Tell us how that Pop-Tart is that you're licking off your finger.
I was actually pulling it out of my teeth and then licking off my finger.
Oh, wow. Even grosser.
I've been playing some Fantasy Conflict. I can't tell you anything about it, though. I just wanted to bring it up.
Is that under NDA?
Yeah, it is.
Why the crap would that game be under NDA?
I don't know, but I'm excited
Literally
that
no
I
one
can...
cares about it.
I'm excited that I can play a game and not say anything about it before it even comes out. It's supposed to come out at the end of September, and that's when I'll be able to talk about it. I planned on playing a bunch of that today, and I ended up falling asleep, and my brother ended up just playing a bunch.
Oh, yeah, so tell us what your brother's been playing this week.
He's been playing that game. He said it was really... I was like, give me your initial impressions so I know how to write this review.
I'm pretty sure when stuff like that is under NDA, you're not even supposed to allow other people to play it.
He didn't even know. I didn't even know he was playing it. He was like,
it doesn't even matter. No one cares about
exactly.
an iPad
It's an iOS game. It's just an app.
You've said too much. We're getting sued.
And then I've been playing Super Hexagon. It's for a game for iOS only, and
for
it's
now,
made.
It's coming for PC and Mac.
Oh, really? I didn't know they had intentions on releasing it for anything else.
Yeah, it's supposed to come. It was supposed to come out fairly close, but PC and Mac got delayed.
Well, this game is made by Terry Cavanaugh, and if you know him, he also made the game VVVVVV. So
And
after I knew that, I was like, "What?"
That co-op game we played, At a Distance, he made that as well.
Oh yeah, that one too. That was an amazing game. Both those games are amazing. You should definitely play those. So that made me even more so wanted to try this game out. So I bought that for like $1 on the App Store, and that's a really fun game. And I realized I've described this to my friends before. I said about playing it, and I don't know how to describe it at all. But basically, there's a hexagon in the middle of the screen, and you're a triangle outside of that hexagon. And that hexagon is spinning in circles, and you can use the touchpad to move that triangle around the hexagon as it is spinning in circles. And the hexagon's split up into like 6 sections, obviously.
This is like a music rhythm game, right?
Kind of. But I mean, it's just basically music that's there. It has nothing to do with like how you play it. I mean, it kind of changes every like 10 seconds because it's supposed to get harder every 10 seconds. But they don't necessarily coincide that way. It's just music that you listen to as you play. But anyway, like, there's like these bars coming closer and closer to that middle hexagon, and you're the triangle on the outside, and you just have to avoid them. But it's a pretty difficult game. And it keeps changing the direction of which way it rotates, and there's more and more of those bars and like hexagons that come at you towards the middle. And so sometimes it's just very small spaces that you have to actually get out of it. And then it gets faster and faster and harder and spins more and changes colors. I think there should be a warning for people with schizophrenia, definitely.
With schizophrenia?
Yeah.
Do you know what schizophrenia is?
I mean epilepsy.
Okay.
That's what I meant. People who are epileptic. Not schizophrenics. And retards. So anybody, because
People with lawnmowers.
There's this thing called Game Center they have for the iOS, which basically just it's kind of like Xbox Live, where you have your gamer tag and a gamer score. But this one keeps track. It basically, you're trying to go as long as you can to survive as long as you can. And there's 3 modes. There's hard, harder, and hardest. And on the hard mode, I lasted for like 43 seconds, and I was in the top 15%. And I was like ranked 1,000.
Wait, how do you lose? What's the fail state?
If you get hit once.
Oh, okay.
By the stuff that's coming in closer to the middle hexagon. So if you get hit once, then you lose. But like the hard setting, obviously it's hard, but like it just takes a little longer to pick up the speed. So I lasted 43 seconds, and I'm like 1,000 out of probably like 5,000 or so people who played it, because I was like top 15%. And the harder setting, I lasted 26 seconds, and then the hardest one, I lasted 11.
The just like different levels.
It's all the same thing. It's just
It's just the same thing. Varying speed or what?
Yeah, varying speed and like how difficult the blocks are approaching, and then also changes the song. Each difficulty has one song it plays over and over. So it's just 3 songs. And if you actually beat any levels, you unlock, I guess, another difficulty or just another setting. I don't know what they are, because I obviously haven't unlocked any of them. But it's a very hard game. But as you play, you can kind of see patterns to it, which is kind of nice. Like sometimes it's random of how the blocks come, but they're not going to give you the hard part of the game at the beginning. You know what I mean? So it's like random how they come, but it's like easier parts. And then as time goes on, like every 10 seconds, it picks up the speed and gives you like more difficult blocks to avoid. But you kind of get used to it and get better at it. I mean, I hit my 43 second mark or whatever on the hard difficulty just by playing it for like an hour straight.
Is it that fun that it's worth playing for an hour straight?
Yeah, it is. And it's for one thing, it kind of seems addicting just because as soon as you die, you just immediately just tap the screen, you're back into it. Like, it's just seamless. Like, you're just constantly playing. You're like, oh, I'll just play it again. And probably because you die so quickly, I mean, you're playing for 10 seconds, you lose. You're like, it's just happening so fast, you just keep playing and playing. 10 seconds really isn't anything before you die in a game, so I put a decent amount of time into that game, trying to, like, for some reason, I wanted to, like, get my score higher and higher and, like, get higher in the ranks. Because I was surprised being, like, top 15% and being, like, under the 1,000
I was surprised
people.
how good I am.
Yeah, I am pretty amazing. But if you watch the trailer for it, it shows you, like, the whole entire level of the hardest mode, and there's no way I would be able to beat that. But it's still fun to see, like, how long I can survive on it. And the top person on the hard mode is Terry Cavanaugh, it says. I don't know if it's actually him, but he has like 200 seconds on the difficulty.
It probably is him.
Probably not.
I'm sure he's played it a lot, so it probably is.
So definitely get that. It's only 99 cents in the App Store.
Or look for it on PC and Mac in the future.
You said Android as well?
No, I didn't.
Android. But yeah, surprisingly, the touch controls. Some people, when I had friends play that game, and they were having difficulty like which side of the screen to tap, because basically all you do is you just tap it, and the longer you hold it, the more it goes around the hexagon, your triangle piece. But they were getting confused, like if you tap the right side, that it goes clockwise around the hexagon, and the left side goes counterclockwise. But I don't know. I didn't think it was that confusing.
Oh, you're amazing. So
yeah, I mean, don't want to brag, but I'm probably one of the best players for the game. So yeah, check that out on your iOS device. That's all I've been playing.
Chase,
Sup?
what's going on with you?
Nothing. What's going on with you?
Nothing. Let's go to news.
I love how it switches the camera like that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
Google Plus is definitely way better than Skype.
I've been playing a lot of Google Plus lately.
Yeah.
I'm glad no one can see this.
I've been playing the usual Diablo, Skyrim, League of Legends, Smite, that kind of deal. But so I won't really get into all that. But I do have a game-related story.
All right.
That I would like to say to replace this. So I met a guy the other day, really big guy, and he was like all hunched over and stuff, and he was wearing this jacket that said his first name. I won't say his first name, but his last name was Krogan.
That was his real last name?
Yeah, and he looked just like one, and it was awesome. And I asked him if I could take a picture of him. And
hey, you look like a freak from a video game. Can I take a
know.
picture?
I'm like, hey, you look like someone from the Mass Effect universe with a Mass Effect name. But I asked if I could take a picture of him, and he said no. So I have no proof. Yeah, I mean, he was just like freaked out because I didn't really like know him, and it was like at a bar or something, and yeah, it was yeah. So he didn't let me do that. So I have no proof that he actually exists, but he is out there.
So look for him.
He is out there. It's not like, like he's Bigfoot or something. So look for him.
He's just like walking in a forest and stuff, and you come across him. He's like, "Hey,
he wants your
I'm
beef
Mr.
jerky."
Krogan.
When you told him you look like did you tell him you look like a Krogan?
No,
from Mass Effect?
No.
So you just walked up and said, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?"
Yeah, pretty much. And you
said
know,
no
like
as well.
sometimes, like, yeah,
I probably would have said no.
I gotta take a picture of you. Like,
I was really offended when he said no. I was really offended.
if I was ugly like that, I wouldn't want people just taking pictures of me because then I would think that you were trying to make fun of me.
Well, he was.
Yeah, I should have lied. I should have said like I was from like some magazine or something, and I don't know.
At that point, after you said no, you should have just
wait.
Anyway.
I want to hear what your lie would have been if you said you were from some magazine.
I would have been like, "Hi, I'm Chase
I'm from GQ,
Cleveland.
and we're looking for the ugliest people
right.
ever.
From Vogue, and I really like your jacket."
I'm from PC Gamer Mag. Let me take a picture of you.
Hey, guy, you look like my favorite race in a video game. Well, you should have just snapped the picture without him knowing.
I should have, but he was rather large. Like the whole point of it was he really looked like a Krogan, and like people like got out of the way when he was walking around and stuff. And it was really weird because he was like hunched over, and it made it look like he had that big helmet thing that they have or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was really funny, but I have no proof that he exists. So I'm really upset.
Freak? You should have just sat next to him and real quietly just been like, "Shepard." And if he said something, you. Otherwise.
Hey, Shepard. The jellyfish.
Yeah, just sit down and start talking to him about the jellyfish.
Right. But yeah, that's all I got. Go play Diablo.
All my recommendations. Play Diablo.
Recommendations. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. So, yep, that's my story. I promise next week I will.
Did you play Tryst at all?
Yeah, I did.
Can you talk
about it?
I think you can.
Can I?
Well, if we think we can, then that's a yes.
Let me check real quick.
Yeah, because if I can, I played like 2 or 3 games.
Well, just talk about it, and if not, I'll cut it. I think you can.
All right. So basically, I got into this closed beta of a game called Tryst, and I went into it thinking it was going to be like StarCraft 2, but it's really not.
That's what a lot of people were comparing it to when I saw the comments. Like everyone's like, "Oh, this is just trying to be StarCraft 2."
Yeah, no, not at all, really.
Other than like maybe visually.
Visually is the only thing that it kind of resembles like StarCraft 2 because basically you start out with one building, and let's just call it your command center because I don't know what it's actually called.
Let's just call it your first building.
Yeah, let's just call it your first building. So in your first building, you build people called engineers. I only played as the human race. There's only 2 races. There's like a human race and then some alien race. But basically, you build like these little worker guys, and those are the guys that build buildings and are able to go capture research buildings. So there's research buildings like around the whole map. So you have to like send your little research builder guy to the buildings, and then you generate additional income based on how many buildings you have. So like to go capture it, you send in a little engineer guy. He goes in there, and like 15 seconds later, you're like, oh, you capture this research building. and then you have like +3 research +3 resource regeneration. And then you basically, there's like a little tech tree, so you build a little tech tree, and then you use the resources that you generally get, gradually get, throughout the course of the game to build more buildings, build attacking units, things like that. And it's really weird because all of the attacking units have ammo, which
Do you have to like monitor that?
slowly regenerates. So like I sent a big troop of like ships into my enemy's base. Like I just play the computer on easy a few times just to get like a handle on it. And I just sent them into the enemy's base, and then they all just stopped attacking like all at once. And they had like this red exclamation point over them, and I couldn't figure out what the hell like happened. And then I was like clicking around and stuff, and it turns out like they have ammo, which I don't know how I feel about that. I
You don't think it
know.
adds to like the strategy of it all?
Well, not really, because you also have supply. So like when you build a unit, it takes 1 or 2 or 3 supply. So then you have to go build like a house or something, like a supply depot to increase your supply. It maxes out at 100. And you have to like use units to protect research points and like research buildings, and then you also have to use them to obviously kill the enemy's buildings. So like units without ammo just take up supply, and I was at a point where I was maxed out and my enemy had a pretty big army, but everything that I had ran out of ammo. So I sent it all back to my base, and I'm like, should I just send them in to die and then like totally spend every resource I have to rebuild my army, or do I bring it back to my base, wait for their ammo to replenish? I don't know. It was really weird. It's I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure if I like the whole ammo thing for attacking units. Because like when you play StarCraft or like another similar one like that, like Warcraft or something, units have energy for spells, but everything can attack regularly, you know? So
I mean, maybe that's what they're going for, and they just haven't tweaked it as well.
yeah, I mean, I would like it more if you have like, 5 ammo for like a special harder attack and you have to like hit a button or something to unleash it. Because they have pretty cool units. Some of them they're at least the humans. They're really high tech. There's like stealth bombers and stuff, and there's like these fast moving tanks and stuff. The units look pretty cool, but yeah, it's a much slower game than StarCraft 2. Anything I can compare it to. Mainly because you have to wait so long for this resource to accumulate.
So it doesn't seem like it's maybe like where StarCraft games can go pretty quickly competitively. Does it seem like it's even trying to go for anything like that? Like everyone has their certain build order, and you're worrying about like how many clicks and all that jazz.
I see what you're saying there. It doesn't seem that way because there are at least on the maps that I played on a 2-person map and a 3-person map. And there's so few research facilities or resource facilities that my generation of resources didn't increase enough for me to build a whole bunch of units really fast and send them in. And even if I did that, they'd run out of ammo. So I may be able to kill everything that the enemy had and totally cripple them, but at that point I have no ammo to kill their buildings. So I don't know. It's really weird, but I'm definitely going to keep it installed and see where the game goes, because something like that where you have like capture points on a map can definitely has potential. So I'd like to see where it goes, and maybe if they add a new race or something, I don't know. So I'll keep you updated.
Well, The only games I've been playing, nothing too spectacular this week. Still playing Mutant Mudds, trying to complete that. I still want 100% that. I put a video out this week of me, a very interesting video of me playing that.
Yeah, I saw
that. Just showing how things go. And was it interesting?
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
And then I've also been playing another indie platformer game called They Bleed Pixels, and hopefully I'll put a video out of this as well this week real quick, because that game's kind of a few weeks old, but I've been playing that. That's, again, in sort of the vein of a difficult platformer of like Super Meat Boy, something like that. It's kind of hard to explain if you can't see it, but the short of it is this girl somehow, it's like inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. So she somehow gets this book that transforms her hands into like these claws or something like that. And it's a platformer that mixes some combat in there, but it's again like Meat Boy or Mutant Mudds or something like that. It's you have to worry about your timing, and you basically learn the level and have to learn how to play exactly through that. It gets pretty difficult, but it's still pretty fun. The one really unique thing about it that I think stands out from everything else is, so there's this checkpoint system in the game, and after you defeat so many enemies, or maybe you pick up so many apples, because apples are are they hearts? I think they're hearts.
I say that. Apples? Why
apples are hearts? Well, I don't know. It's like it's an 8-bit thing, and I can't even tell sometimes. But
yeah, they look like little red circles. So...
maybe they're, I don't know what they are. So these little red dot things. So you pick those up, and after you fill up this certain meter from killing enemies or picking up those red things, you can then save anywhere you want. You can put a checkpoint, anywhere you want. Now this checkpoint, if you quit the level halfway through, you don't get that checkpoint back, but it's when you die within that level, you can go back to that checkpoint. But in this one, you actually choose where you want your checkpoint to be, and the nice thing is, if you're in close proximity to something that will hurt you, it won't allow you to place the checkpoint there. And it may seem like a little thing, but when you're playing a game like this with long levels that can be very difficult, doing it in one run can be very hard. So having the ability to have checkpoints and then getting to choose where those checkpoints go is actually a humongous help.
They could also just not have you get hurt for the first couple of seconds as soon as you come back.
Well, it's not just like a when you first spawn type of thing. It's just being able to choose where your checkpoints want to go. So sometimes you might, because the way you place a checkpoint is you stop moving altogether, and then it'll place it. But as long as you're moving in some capacity, it won't place the checkpoint. So there's certain points where it might be a really short section that doesn't even take that long to get through, but it's very difficult. So maybe I'll go around and I'll kill some enemies, and I'll pick up some of those orbs, and I'll save up a checkpoint. Then I'll go do that area, and then right after that I'll save it. And only because just that area is so difficult, and I've died so many times doing that it's become so annoying. So it's a little thing, but it makes a huge difference in a difficult game like that. And then the other game I played is called Tiny Troopers. This one comes out, I believe, on the 11th. So the day this podcast comes out, that'll be out. I could be wrong.
Really? I thought I could buy that game.
You can buy it on your iPad. This is the PC version.
Yeah, you can buy that now.
Yeah, on your iPad.
No, I'm on Steam.
Can you pre-buy it?
No, it just says add to cart to buy.
Okay, so I have no idea. So maybe it is already out. But anyway, it's this Steam game called Tiny Troopers, and it was originally an iOS game, and it's not that good. Basically, you are controlling a couple tiny troopers, and if you've ever played like Company Heroes or Warhammer, like the new Warhammer, yeah, I guess it's kind of similar to that. It's not an RTS in any way, or even a strategy game really, but that's what it reminds me of. But it's very simple. I mean, you have your characters, you walk around, and you click to shoot other guys, and then that's pretty much it. You kind of worry about getting from point A to point B without dying and completing
so it's really
some
boring is what you're saying.
dumb objectives. Yeah, it's incredibly I don't get why. I mean, maybe on the iPad because there's nothing interesting to do, like if you're sitting on the bus and you're like, I guess I'll play this dumb game because I've got time to kill, but I would never recommend playing this on your, like, buying this on Steam and playing this because it is completely uninteresting. And the thing that's kind of weird about it, or kind of unsettling about it, is that you're playing as U.S. troops. I'm assuming they're U.S. troops, and you're in some country shooting some brown people that live in sand. So that's not as unsettling because whatever, that's reality. But the things they say, like, they're supposed to be like these cute little guys running around. And when you kill somebody in the game, they make like these horrible gurgling sounds when they die, or they'll slowly die and say stuff to you, which I don't have an example off the top of my head, but just stuff that's like, it seems like, if anything, this might be targeted towards kids. I guess a kid's war game, but in some ways this feels worse than like Call of Duty or something, because it's supposed to be so cute and cuddly, but they're saying like horrible things as they die, and they're
What do they say? Like, die, bitch?
No,
Stuff like that?
not horrible things like that. Like no, just stuff that like, I'm dying, and it sounds like really cute, like almost a kid is saying it. Or
How's
it's like,
that
oh
cute?
no, you got to hear the voices.
I'm dying. Also cute.
Whatever.
Please take care of my puppy.
I don't know. It just the way they say it and the voices they say it, it sounds like little kids, and it's weird.
I guess they're supposed to be tiny. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. It's supposed to be cute, but on one hand, it just seems, I don't know. In some way, I guess they're trying to like downplay the fact that it's a war, and that it's basically reflecting the kind of war that we're in right now. But I mean, just like if they made like Hitler's tiny troopers or something like that, and you're like killing Jews, it wouldn't make it any better. Not comparing the war to Hitler, but I'm just saying the way it's represented in this game seems really weird. It just feels weird. It feels like little kids killing each other. Imagine little kids saying I'm dying and blood everywhere. That'd be weird.
That wouldn't be too bad.
Be horrible.
That's it. I'll probably make a video of that because I know you're asking for it.
Can't wait to see it.
I'd watch it.
I'm glad you guys appreciate my work.
I don't want to do that.
Anyway, that's all I've been playing.
Is that it? You just been killing little kids all day?
Pretty much. I gotta review that game.
What about scratches, Jared?
What about it?
Been playing some scratches?
You just watching my Steam?
Yeah, I'm just watching your Steam thing. How much you've been playing?
Yeah, Scratches is cool. I like the game. It's
You played 0.3 hours.
I played a lot of the game before, but I had to uninstall Steam for some reason and reinstall it, and I lost the save.
Does it scare you?
No, it's not really a scary game. It's very, I mean, it's atmospheric, and there are points where it gets kind of tense. Scratches is an older game. I don't even know when it came out, but it's
2006.
well, good. I'm glad you do my research for me. And it's like a first-person point-and-click adventure style game, and you're this writer, and you go to this Victorian house to write, to like finish your book or your novel or whatever you're working on.
Like most writers.
Some writers do that to get away,
Yeah.
to clear their mind and stuff. And that's basically what the character's doing. And as you explore the house, like, freaky things happen.
I don't know if a point and click could ever be scary.
If you're thinking of point and click in traditional sense, in like Monkey Island or something, then I don't think so either. That'd be pretty hard. But this is a first-person game, and it's very atmospheric. So you go into a certain area, and the music changes, and the sound effects that are happening around you changes. So, I mean, if you're really into it, you know, you're like, have the lights off, have a headset on, you're really focusing into the game. And most of the game is really quiet, and you're not really, you know, there's not like a bunch of jump scares or anything. It's not like fear or anything like that. So it really builds up to some of the scary parts. And as you go around the house and you're reading like old newspaper clippings, or you're reading this journal of a madman, like just getting, like piecing together different things. And then when something like crashes or you hear a noise, you kind of like, because it's all controlled with a mouse, and you can easily move it around as if you were in a first-person shooter as far as looking around. So, you know, you hear a noise, you might whip around real quick to look around to see what's around you. So they do build some tension and some atmospheric scares into that, but I mean, it's not Dead Space or something if that's what you're expecting in terms of scares. But I mean, that's an old game. I've played that a bunch. I just really like that game, and I really love first-person adventure games. So I was just kind of wanting to play that again, so I went back to it.
Did you play Where Am I?
Yeah, I played Where Am I? Did you play that, Chase, or do you know what that is?
Nope. No idea what you guys talk about.
Might as well talk about it.
Yeah, there's really, I don't know, I don't think very highly of it.
Oh my gosh, it was so scary.
It's the next game from the guy who made Slender, and it's made in Unity Web, so you can just play it in a browser. And you basically walk forever, and then there's a scare at the end, and that's it.
Okay.
So kind of like Slender, really. You just walk.
I didn't think Slender was scary, but this was even less scary. Okay, so you start out in a room where there's really no color. Everything's black and gray, and
you don't know where you are.
You're in a square room, and you move from square room to square room, and when you go into, yeah, okay, there's hallways. When you go into a room, sometimes a door behind you will disappear, and like as you spin around, like different doors will appear, and you kind of just find your way.
Yeah, you just keep walking, and I think it's the music that makes it really good. It's like slow, like obviously you can hear yourself walking. It's just like by pacing, like when you walk, and then like you hear like music start to play, like the more you walk around, basically, and then the screen starts to get fuzzy. It's already all black and gray, so it's already kind of dark and somewhat hard to see. But then everything starts to get fuzzy the more and more you play. So probably about 5 or 6 minutes in, you can barely see. You probably can't see anything, and that's where the suspense really builds up, and you hear like all the music and everything come together, and you get your scare. But I didn't think it was scary, but I think he does a really good job at like building tense things with something simple. And that game was made in like 48 hours for one of those competitions.
I think it was the concept of it. I think was a great idea. It didn't scare me, but like his idea of, because he does a really good job of having nothing happen for a while, because you're going into it expecting it to be a scary game, and as you turn corners and go in different areas, nothing scary happens, and then the music starts to pick up, and then your vision starts to go, and then it's like, okay, the scare's got to be coming, but you don't know when it's going to come, and then when it finally does come, I guess a lot of people were scared.
I wasn't, but it's probably because of the way of how I play the game, where I don't actually look at where I'm walking. Like I'll sidewalk and stuff, so I don't see in front of me, and I'm just like staring at the walls and stuff or the ground rather than like up. So when it happens,
you might as well just play the game with your eyes closed.
I do usually. I close them once in a while. And Slender, I did that. That was pretty bad.
Anyway, you want to take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about news.
Yeah, bye.
Begin.
News time. So EA is saying no more single player games. In a
Is that it?
I had the
That's all
wrong
he said.
I had the wrong
He says no more single player games. Well, I guess they're right. No more companies are gonna be making single player games after that statement.
I had the wrong thing open. So Frank Gibbo, I don't know how to say this guy's name. But anyway, he said, I have not greenlit one game to be developed as a single-player experience. Today, all of our games include online applications and digital services that make them live 24/7, 365. So they said, going forward, that none of their games are ever going to be without some other social element to it.
Well, there's one thing I just don't know about it. Are they having a separate team make the multiplayer? And if they are, then I'd be okay with that. Because if they have a whole team focused on single player and purposefully have another team working on multiplayer just so they can have it for every game, I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, I may not necessarily like the multiplayer component in the game, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'll hate the game, even if the campaign's good. If the single player is good itself.
I mean, I don't think they talk about any specifics as far as that goes. I think he's just saying in the future all their games will not be just they will be not be putting out any more single player games.
So they're gonna have like single player games, but then just add multiplayer to it. You know,
like Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, that Dead Space 3, things like that. That doesn't bother me though. Like I don't see why that's a big problem. I don't understand why they feel the need of that to happen. Probably because people are like demanding that now. Some people are, I guess. But it's not a big problem for me. I'll play the single player and enjoy that, whether or not I want to play the multiplayer or not.
I don't think a lot of people are demanding that kind of thing. Because that's what a lot of people said about Skyrim too, is, oh my god, would be the perfect experience for multiplayer. And then, modders and stuff went ahead and made multiplayer for Skyrim, and it's just shit, but that's their fault anyway. But I think, and I've said this before, is I think that people who, developers who make a crappy multiplayer experience on a mainly single-player game just to add it in there, even if it's made by separate people, completely ruin the single-player thing.
You think it ruins it?
Yeah, I think it makes the single-player experience worse. I think personally that Mass Effect 3 could have been better if 100% of people working on Mass Effect 3 would have concentrated on the single-player aspect. And that's
Is it because they made a poor multiplayer though? But what if they made it a good multiplayer experience as well?
But in a single-player game, I don't want a multiplayer experience at all. And I think that's the whole point of this article is they're saying no matter what game we make, we're going to make multiplayer, or we're going to have some sort of online community thing with this game, even if it's mainly single player. And I for one don't see the need for games like this to have any sort of multiplayer whatsoever. Like Mass Effect 3, 0 multiplayer. It should have had 0.
I mean, I'm not, as far as the Mass Effect one goes, I don't have a problem with that. But if these games are not having if they don't have a separate team focusing on just the multiplayer, then I find that to be a problem. If you're taking people from the main game and then moving them over to work on the multiplayer, that's an issue. But even more so, I don't like when they try to shoehorn in multiplayer to certain games that don't need it. Like Dead Space 3, I've never heard anyone say like, what Dead Space needs? Multiplayer.
No, you need to have co-op because it's too scary.
Well, I mean, Dead Space had multiplayer, but yeah, it didn't have co-op. Yeah, it's too scary, so we need co-op. Like and I don't know if that's why Dead Space 3 actually has co-op because of EA's new initiative of focusing on, multiplayer or no single player, but I think that's a bad decision, and I think trying to shoehorn in any type of multiplayer in all these games is a bad idea, because unless it's built from the ground up with a multiplayer experience in mind, then I have a hard time believing it's ever going to be anything worth playing. And they're just wasting resources and money at that point. Because I don't think, like, when the 360 first came out, like the beginning of this generation, there was a big push for a lot of games to have a multiplayer component. Because a lot of people would say, like, a game isn't good unless it has, like, it's not a complete game, it's not worth your $60 unless it has a multiplayer component. But we've changed so drastically since then, to the point where people really only play certain games when it comes to multiplayer. So just having it's not really a necessity to have a multiplayer component in every game.
But and when I think single player experiences, EA doesn't really come to my mind either.
I guess it depends. I like Dead Space, the first Dead Space. And that was an EA game.
Yeah, as do I.
But I mean, I think some companies, maybe if the original first couple games were just single player games, and then they added the multiplayer for whatever reason, added multiplayer, added co-op. Some companies actually make it better, actually an actual better experience. Like I was thinking of Splinter Cell, when they came out with the co-op and the multiplayer for Conviction. It was actually really fun. I had a lot of fun with that. I don't know if Jared did, because I played with mostly Jared, but I don't know how you feel about that. But I think that addition was actually a good step for that company.
I mean, I think more Pandora Tomorrow was the better step.
Pandora
originally.
Tomorrow was good too. But the original Splinter Cell, like, it was just single player experience, and that's all it was. And then when they started adding more things, I think I liked it even more. So I guess it just depends.
Yeah, but from the ground, like if you look at Pandora Tomorrow, which I mean, I think me, you, and I know Dan Shu has talked about this a bunch of times, but I feel like that's one of the most original multiplayer experiences. Unfortunately, that never really took off. But Pandora Tomorrow, from the ground up, was built with that. Not the whole game. Like the single player was built by a team, and then the multiplayer was built by another team. And from the ground up, it was focused on to be this very engaging multiplayer original experience. But if you have games that are now just saying, well, like now we have to have multiplayer, I think that will curb innovation. And they're gonna just think, okay, we have to throw some type of death match or something in here, so let's just make a death match and a capture the flag and make a couple levels, and then bam, there you go, there's multiplayer.
Well, if it's that quick, then what's the problem? Like, you can always avoid these kind of things. You don't have to play it. I don't think it like destroys my experience of playing a game, because I choose not to click on the multiplayer button instead of single player when I load the game.
No, I agree, but I'm saying in some games, some teams, they might have to take people away to focus on the multiplayer. So some level designers who could spend more time designing something in the single player, they might have to go then work on levels for multiplayer. Or programmers who might have to work on... Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes they have two separate teams that might work on it. But even then, I still feel like unless I still think a lot of this stuff is going to be just shoehorned in. It's not going to be very original. It's just like, hey, it's a shooter, so let's just throw in some deathmatch and bam, there you go. I like original, from like Pandora Tomorrow. That was original. It used the game mechanics. It was an amazing idea, and it was well worth having that in a single player game. But I don't foresee a lot of games doing that, especially from EA, who lack a lot of originality.
You're kidding.
But EA, for the most part, makes pretty solid multiplayer.
It's... Well, okay, I guess we're saying this in the wrong way, because we're saying EA when really they're the publisher. EA has published some decent games, Battlefield, but that was DICE, and the list stops there.
I mean, you can go into sports games, right? I mean, that's the only other thing that I can really think of when it comes to EA that I would even take a look at of buying. Mass Effect, Battlefield, and then all of their sports games. A lot of people say Dead Space, but I don't know. If you're going to allocate more resources away from the main story of the single player campaign, which is what made Dead Space so awesome, you potentially have ruined Dead Space 3.
I think it's a bad move on EA overall, just to force multiplayer of some sort into all their games.
I think they're looking at all these multiplayer numbers and they're saying we want a piece of that, and there's really no reason.
Yeah, I think their idea is if we just keep throwing different things at the wall, eventually we'll get the next Call of Duty, and that's not going to happen. I mean, it might happen, but that's not the way to go about it.
I agree.
All right, so DRM. Every gamer pretty much hates DRM, and Ubisoft. Okay, side note on Ubisoft, by the way, it's Ubisoft, not Ubisoft. A lot of people say Ubisoft, but it's actually Ubisoft. That's coming straight from the director of whatever.
That's coming straight from Pixel Perfect Mac.
That's coming straight from what's his name? I don't know if he's the CEO. Yves Guillemot.
Yves Guillemot, right?
Yeah, it's Ubisoft.
We're probably pronouncing his name wrong anyway, but it's Ubisoft, Yves.
yeah, whatever his name is, French face, says it's Ubisoft. So Ubisoft is scrapping their always on DRM, which has been a big thing of controversy ever since it was first announced that they were going to have always on for I didn't even remember the game that it was originally required for, but a lot of people have had issues with that, and they have said, we have listened to feedback, and since June last year, our policy for all PC games is that we only require a one-time online activation when you first install the game, and from then you are free to play the game offline.
Finally, some good news, I think. It's a better step than where we were at before.
Yeah, he also went on to say, whenever you want to reach any online service, multiplayer, you will have to be connected, and obviously for online games, we also need to be online to play, but if you want to enjoy Assassin's Creed 3 single player, you'll be able to do that without being connected, and you will be able to activate the game on as many machines as you want. Which, there was also an issue with that you can only have so many activations, so many installs on certain machines, so they've gotten rid of that altogether.
Sweet.
Which is great to hear. Now, do you guys think this is on the heels of what we talked about, I think like 2 podcasts ago, about the piracy rates, that they said like 95% of their games are being pirated? Do you think that's because I know a lot of people that when they first heard about the always on DRM, that was one of the backlash things. They're saying like, well, I'm just going to pirate your games from now on because I don't want that intrusive DRM on my system.
But wasn't DRM supposed to stop pirating? Isn't that like the
That's
whole
the theory.
reason?
In theory, it is, but in reality, you just crack the DRM and you get by it.
I think a lot of people would pirate it more if they have to always be online. If that's an issue for you, then yeah, I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna pirate it. To me, it wouldn't be an issue because I don't mind being online all the time. It just depends, person by person. I mean, if you want to just backlash, be like, I'm not gonna pay for that because I have to be online all the time, and then pirate it. I don't know how many cases of that there would be, but for the most part, it doesn't bother me.
I think DRM really doesn't matter when it comes to piracy rates. I think the people who are going to pirate your game are going to pirate it whether you have a DRM policy or not. I think the majority of people who even play games don't even know what DRM stands for, or don't even know. They don't
even know that they're installing it, probably.
The thing that I like to talk about when it comes to piracy and kind of this whole thing about listening to feedback in the community and everything is when Minecraft first released the official game, the creator Notch, he basically said, you guys can go ahead and pirate my game, like I don't care, but if you like it, then please come back and purchase it. It was kind of this weird thing that came over me about like how the creator of a game basically said, I just want you to play my game, and I love the community, and I love seeing what people do, and I love everyone. And a lot of people responded, and they said, that's awesome of you, and I pirated your game, and now I bought it because I love it, and you know, you kind of talk to the community, and you're really into it. And I think that any community who like kind of communicates and stuff, or like developers who communicate with gamers, as long as they kind of save face with the DRM thing, I think a lot of people will choose not to pirate because of that.
What do you think about, because we talked about this, I don't know, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, or I don't know, whenever we talked about them turning over to Uplay for their games, they're now going to start using Uplay as their means of distributing games. That effectively is a version of DRM, just like Steam. Like, a lot of us love Steam, and we talk so highly about Steam, but Steam is still DRM.
Yeah.
So, and Uplay is going to be DRM for Ubisoft. The only difference is, I think they're trying to go for a similar Steam feel. As far as like Steam, you can play games offline, but you usually have to log on first, and then you can go into offline mode. I think maybe for Ubisoft they're going to try to do the same, or for Uplay they're going to try to do the same thing. You know, allow you, because it's essentially still similar to always on DRM. Because like when I have Steam on and I'm connected, I'm like never not connected to the internet. So I mean that's sort of always on DRM except it doesn't require you to be connected.
Do you care about that though? Would that ever be an issue?
From Steam or from Uplay?
I guess either one.
No, because I mean, while I don't want to use Uplay or I don't want to use Origin or any other one than Steam, if they're still going the Steam route where it's not requiring me to always be connected and I can play my games offline, but you still have to play through that certain client, I'm okay with that. It's not a huge deal.
You don't mind having all those clients on your computer and playing each game?
No, I do mind that. I mind having the multiple clients, but I'm saying the client itself, as long as it's not, you always have to be connected, because things have happened where I think this happened with Ghost Recon, and I can't remember, but their servers went down for a while. Ubisoft servers went down. People couldn't authenticate with this always-on DRM, so they were just out of luck. They couldn't play their games, so they went hours and hours, I think even days, without being able to play their games because of an issue on Ubisoft's end. But for something like Steam, it's not like that, because you don't need always on. You don't always have to be connected to play those games.
But you need one connection. You need to connect at least once. So if their servers are down, you want to play a game, you can't even connect at all. So you still can't play those games.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure how that works. I mean, that's how I think it works. But maybe you can start in offline mode. I don't know. I've never tried.
Regardless, they're basically, is what you're saying, they're taking away the DRM of the game itself and just adding the DRM of Uplay.
Yeah, which I don't have a problem with.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who has a problem with a game client on their PC. Not one.
Imagine if they did that for like Xbox Live, making you always be on Xbox Live for specific games. I guess I couldn't do that, could they? Because you had to pay for that.
Well, no, there's Silver, which is free.
Okay, so making you always be on Xbox Live. What, is there games like that? Because that would suck if they started doing that.
No, there's nothing like that now.
No,
but
Silver just allows you to get buy DLC and get game updates and stuff.
Yeah, but they require you to have Xbox Live Silver Edition, whatever, just to play a game single player. That would suck.
I don't think they ever require you having gold or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, maybe not next generation, but maybe the generation after that, where as much as we don't like to believe it, there still are some people out there without internet connections in their house. So I think after maybe this next generation, the following generation, maybe there would be some type of DRM like that where it requires you to, because at that point I imagine we'll be downloading a majority of games and we'll be installing a lot of games directly to the hard drives, just like a regular PC. And I imagine there will be some type of online verification activation thing.
Seems inevitable. But I mean, again, it's 360 on the 360 and any of the console. How great are their piracy rates compared to PC?
It's just not as easy.
Yeah.
It's not always about.
Well, that's they're claiming that they want DRM because of piracy reasons.
Well, I mean, one example that it would be relevant is installing the disk to your hard drive. There aren't many games that you can install the disk and just not use the disk anymore, but if we get to the point where we can do that, then you can install it to your hard drive, then just give it to someone else. But what if there's a unique signature that's installed, and then when you connect, you have to authenticate, and so that could be one way to stop that. But anyway, I think it's a good move on Ubisoft's part. It's a bad move to make us use Uplay, but
can't make me.
So Steam Greenlight,
Steamlight
is something that came out a couple weeks ago, and we haven't actually talked about this on the podcast at all.
Nope.
Yeah, what the heck?
So I'll explain that real quick for those of you who don't know. Steam Greenlight is a new service where indie developers can put their games up on display to be voted on. So the community then can go, if you have Steam, you can go into your client, and there's a Greenlight section where you can look at the different indie games, see trailers, see screenshots, and then you can vote yes or no, up or down, thumbs up, thumbs down to the game, and you can leave comments about the game. And it's a way to tell Steam, hey, we want this game on Steam, and we want it, there's enough people that are going to purchase it so that it'll be on Steam. So to avoid a huge influx of stupid ideas or just joke ideas, or people submitting multiple entries of dumb things, just to avoid to weed out some of that crap, Steam has implemented a $100 fee for any developers that want to put a game up for voting on Steam. And there's been a lot of mixed feelings on that. Some developers think it's smart. Some developers think it's a dumb idea. What do you guys think about the $100 fee required?
I think it's good.
Okay,
Devin,
you think it's good? Is it it's good for a fee, or is it perfect to be $100? Does the price
it's
matter?
a good idea. Yeah, I think the price does matter, but I think $100 is a good price point. It's high enough to where it's gonna weed out anything that is gonna be, like Jared said, like a joke or like a really stupid idea or something. But it's low enough that any serious developer can scrape up $100. Ask friends or family or even Kickstarter.
Start a Kickstarter for your Steam
Greenlight. Yeah, I mean seriously. But yeah, I think just having like an open it happens kind of with the Steam Workshop for Skyrim mods, because you just get stupid stuff in there. I mean, it's rated so low and there are so many mods. A lot of them are so broken. I think they're, with some sort of barrier to entry, will weed out so many bad games. So I think $100 is a pretty good price point. And if their game gets greenlighted and accepted, they're gonna make way more than $100. So they're definitely gonna make their money back.
Yeah,
and
if they have
a
the
worthy
confidence
investment.
in it.
Right.
If they believe that their game's going to sell, I mean, $100 is nothing compared to the long run. If they think it's going to be greenlighted and get submitted to Steam. And it's the same way with submitting your stuff for Xbox Live for indie games. Indie game developers, I think it's $100. Same with IGF. So it's pretty much like the same price point for any of those other services to submit your games to. So I think that's a pretty good idea for Valve to do that.
Yeah, the price point isn't what I have a problem with. I have a problem with the way that voting goes down and the way everything is handled on there. I think it's handled pretty poorly.
What do you mean exactly?
Well, I think it's really hard for true indie developers, people without a following already, to get their game looked at. People from what I've heard and read, and from what I've seen, I think people assume some game is like X, Y, and Z, or they don't read the description. They look at pictures.
And then decide to vote.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and I think people, scan a lot and don't really give these developers the time that they should. So, I think there's a lot of talent out there that's going to waste, and I think there's a lot of people with a big following that are getting
popularity contest. Then
yeah, I mean, it really is when it comes down to it, and sad to say that's what's happening on there if you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. To some extent, you almost already have to have some type of following to even get voted up in Greenlight, which is a very flawed system, because I thought the idea of Greenlight was to have the community look at it and say, like, oh, this looks interesting, I'd like to see it up there. But when I look at the Greenlight homepage right now, I've heard of every single one of these games. These are games that I've known about for a while. As someone who plays a lot of indie games and keeps up with the indie gaming scene, I've heard of these games. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people who will log on Steam and have no idea what that is. To even get voted up to be on Steam, it's going to be voted up by mostly people who are already kind of interested in the indie scene already. So it doesn't make much sense. It is really just like, okay, I already have a following, I want to get on Steam, and this is basically just a way of me to prove that, hey, I deserve to be on Steam. Which, in that case, you're not highlighting any of those small indie games that get get overlooked all the time. You're really just promoting ones that already have a following.
Yeah, when I think about it, I mean, we're talking about it now because Steam Greenlight is pretty new. As we're talking about it, it's only been up for like a week or so, but I think this is a temporary problem. I think that once you get these games, like for some of these games on Steam Greenlight, like we've played them before, like they're available. They just want to be on Steam. So it's like an easier place instead of having to go to the website. They just go on Steam. So it is a temporary issue. Once we get all these, quote unquote popular games out of the way, I think it's going to open the door for a lot lesser known people to get through. But yeah, I mean, a huge problem right now is that, people who have that following are saying, hey, go here, upvote, and they get the front pages.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that would necessarily fix the problem or not, because I don't know what their policy is in terms of accepting, if they're just going to, how many people are going to accept, how often they're going to be accepting. So I don't know. We'll see. I definitely think it's a fixable issue. It's just not a really great system at this point.
What if they changed, like, if you just go to the green light page on Steam, what if they just changed the games that you see on the front page? Why do they have to be like the top rated votes? What if they were just maybe ones that haven't been voted on at all or something like that, just like new games? Rather than having to search for your own, because you can go through pages and pages. There's tons of them on there. What if they just kind of maybe gave you ones that had a bunch of down votes or something like that to see if new people will actually check them out and give them a good, a thumbs up vote.
Yeah, they don't really help it by displaying all the big ones at the front and then not even worrying about displaying some of the smaller ones.
Yeah, and that goes back to one of the first points I made was that people who do vote on things like that, they don't read, they don't do their research, they mainly look at your pictures or whatever you have up there, any type of media that's not text, and they give you that thumbs up or thumbs down based on that. So I know I've read a lot of developers are pretty disappointed in the community that kind of pigeonhole them into a certain type of game, or they just take the idea for granted. So some people aren't happy, but then again, those people who are getting upvotes are happy about it. So there's mixed feelings.
But as far as the $100 fee, I think that's good. I mean, I don't think there's some people made arguments that if you're the kind of developer that doesn't have a pot to pee in, then it sucks for you, and that might be the only way for you to make some money back is getting on Steam and getting that exposure. But $100 really isn't that much money. You could work a job, for like a random job, for a week and have the money to cover that. So
yeah, my feeling is that if you have the time to make a game, you have time to make $100, right? I mean, if you're working 3 jobs and find time to make a game, like, you have $100 laying around.
And lastly, the PS Vita was hacked for homebrew. Now this has been reported incorrectly by a lot of sites out there. Giant Bomb actually did an interview with the man behind that. I don't even know if I can pronounce his name correctly, but Yifan Liu? I don't know. He's a Texas-based student.
Yifan Liu.
I think it's Yifan.
Yifan Liu. I don't know what your name is, but a Texas student who has not actually hacked the PlayStation Vita, but has found an exploit which will allow him down the line hopefully be able to allow for homebrew for the PS Vita. So a lot of sites are saying he hacked it and now you're able to play homebrew, but you can't actually do that just yet. But that seems like something down the line. Now, what do you guys think about this? First of all, what do you think about like Sony's reaction to this, and how do you think this will help the Vita if something like this actually comes along?
Sony getting hacked is just funny. That's all there is to it.
Well, do you think they haven't responded to him yet? Sony hasn't responded with like a cease and desist letter. They haven't said anything to anyone about it. Do you think they're gonna try to even respond like they did with GeoHot and the PS3, or do you think they're gonna just try to avoid that whole mess?
I don't see any way you can avoid something like
Yeah,
this.
what the heck? It's getting huge.
The guy, Yifan is basically saying, he's quoted in here, if they tell me to stop, I will. I don't have the time or resources to fight them. This is only a hobby. So you're saying a Texas student, as a hobby, found a loophole in your code. That's huge. Like, you imagine that information coming out, and people who are professional hackers, quote unquote, that professional hackers, they're going to go at this 110%. So I think the PS Vita isn't as big as the PS3 because there's not as much information and stuff on there, but I think it's definitely a big deal.
Well, I think one big distinction to make is that he's doing this specifically for homebrew so that people can homebrew. And I think even if he wasn't doing it, someone else would figure it out. I mean, just because he might be laying the groundwork and might be making a stepping stone to people hacking into the system to pirate games, because I think that's one big issue because he says in this interview with Patrick Klepek from Giant Bomb, he says that he is going to make it specifically so that it only supports homebrew, that there will be no way to pirate. Now, someone might use his code to then make the system be able to play pirated games, but that's not his goal. And, if someone else does it, they're going to do it because they want to do it regardless of Yvonne's code or not.
I'm just so... not that I like Sony as a gaming company anyway, but I am just, again, severely disappointed in Sony that they have this problem again. Like, you rarely hear of the Wii getting hacked and stuff.
Nobody wants to hack the Wii.
Well, I think the truth is, though, the hardware, the homebrew scene is actually pretty big for the PS3 and the PSP. Now I don't know enough about the hardware or the software to say, but I'm guessing it lends itself better for homebrew stuff. So that's why it's constantly, getting hacked open and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, this would give some people a reason to get a Vita, I think. If you could learn how to exploit it and put some homebrew stuff on there, I think I think it would be a negative thing for Sony to go after this guy, because right now he hasn't done anything really potentially harmful. He is saying right now, GeoHot also said he wasn't going to make it so people could pirate games, but they still went after him. But he specifically said he doesn't want people to use it for piracy. And after the backlash that Sony got, and I'm not even talking about like Anonymous or Lulsec when they hacked Sony, but just the backlash from the community in general, the way he went after GeoHot, they got a lot of bad press and bad backlash for that, and I don't think it'd be worth it to do the same for Yvonne.
So do you think it's beneficial for Sony just to ride this wave, that based on the fact that in the future something good might happen with the Vita to boost sales temporarily?
I mean, I don't think it'll boost their sales enough to where it's worth talking about much, but when the PS3 originally came out, homebrew was one of the features that they talked about, and then they stopped that with that update, the 4.3 or whatever update, and they completely cut it out. And there is still a big thriving homebrew community out there, and I think it's idiotic for them to ignore that when they have the technology and the system that people obviously like to homebrew on, because they could do that on their PCs, but people are worrying like they're hacking their systems to create these homebrews. So obviously it's a good thing. They need to, play that up and allow people to homebrew on there and not make an issue of it.
I don't know. I really don't know what Sony should do about it. I guess just sit back and let it happen. Pretty much anytime they decide to do something, it's always for the worst part of their company. So
yeah, that's true.
So
Sony should just stop making decisions.
Yeah. Let other people make decisions for them and kind of just go with the flow.
They should stop making handhelds altogether.
I think that this will be the last one, because when I was at E3, well, even if you just watched E3, if you watched the Sony conference, just the way that they ignored the Vita altogether, they mentioned a few things, but the Vita, you think after having a new handheld release, they would come out and they talk a lot about the Vita and like, this is what we're going to be doing in the new year, blah, blah, blah. But they barely even said anything about it. They almost completely ignored it. So I think Sony is realizing that they're not going to make a dent in the mobile community. I personally think the Vita will be their last handheld.
Yeah, it will.
They have really cool ideas. It just didn't work.
And they don't have many games to support it.
Yeah, just no one wanted it. No one was hammering for a new, I don't know.
No one's like, man, PSP was great.
I want to upgrade. No one said that.
More people are upgrading to the 3DS XL than buying a PS Vita. People would rather have a 3DS and then a 3DS XL than just buy a Vita.
Do you think that's because of Pokemon specifically? Like, do you think that is such a good franchise that it drives sales of the 3DS?
I think there's a lot of games that drive the sales of the 3DS.
I think a lot of the first-party games, like
Yeah.
Mario
That's going to drive the sales for any
Pokemon.
Nintendo console or handheld.
Yeah, but really, if you look at all areas of... if you look at the PSP, there are really good games on the PSP, but you could never justify the purchase of it.
Are there really
rarely
good
could.
games on the PSP that appeal to the masses, though? Or is it like it's really good games for people like you and maybe me or somebody, like niche groups?
They're much
maybe?
more niche. I'm looking at my list trying to see, but yeah, they're much more niche. Like things like Pokemon appeal to large masses.
So they're going to
Mario
sell a
to
lot
large
of consoles,
masses.
a lot of handhelds.
I don't know. Every time I see a portable gaming device, it's always in the hand of a 5-year-old whose parent is just I can't deal with you anymore, and they just give him their 3DS and he just plays Pokemon and just sits and stops talking to him.
That's the kind of parent I want to be.
Yeah. Just, oh my god, I can't take you anymore, Timmy. Just go in the corner.
I just can't wait to neglect my children.
Yeah.
I can't wait to let them just play video games all day.
While I play video games all day.
But yeah, no, there's a huge history of things that are wrong with Sony's approach to handheld gaming. List too big to even get in through. But in another recent blunder from Sony's side is that did we talk about this on the podcast? No, I don't think we did. We didn't talk about the PS1 games supposed to be released on the Vita, but they didn't, did we?
Nope.
No.
Okay. There were supposed to be like 100 games released in North America on the PlayStation Vita for people to play and download and whatnot. And we ended up getting 9. Now, since that happened, a few have trickled out and some more games are available.
PS1 games, right?
Yeah, PS1 games. And as such, we're not going to really talk about that specifically, but as such, Jim Sterling made this video, one of his Jimquisition videos that said Sony's begging for piracy. And we're not, again, going to cover specifically that, but I wanted to talk about piracy in general, also relating to Sony, because Sony is one of those companies that loves to tout the big idea that so many of their games are getting pirated. That's why they have bad sales or whatever. So this would be a general topic just about piracy in general. What do you think about piracy? How do you think how do you think it affects the gaming industry at large?
Oh, we're not talking about Sony at all?
You can work Sony into it, like as an example, but we're not going to unless do you have something specific you want to say about Sony?
No, I was just in general, like specifically Sony and the decisions that they make. They're the ones who are like, hey, you should pirate our games, pretty much.
Well, that's what I mean. You can work that in and kind of talk about that. How some industries some companies might be asking for it. So, first off, why do you think most people pirate? Like, it may not just be one reason, but what do you think are some of the reasons that they pirate games?
Don't have money.
That was my number one reason.
That's your number one reason? You don't think it's maybe a problem of service, like Devin mentioned with Sony's issues? You don't think it's because Sony's offering a bad product that people are pirating? Like, do you think if the publishers would offer a better product or a better service, piracy would happen less, or is it just the money?
Piracy would happen less, but people are still going to pirate if you don't have money. If they don't play games, especially new games, and they don't have money, they're going to pirate.
I try and take the money aspect out of gaming and think of another reason that I would pirate a game, and it would probably be because I wouldn't want to spend my money on a so-so game. I would rather pirate it and just check it out. But I mean, then again, it comes back to money again. Like the whole part of pirating a game is not paying for it. Whether you're doing it to get back at a company for, I mean, maybe your Xbox broke and you want to pirate all your new Xbox games. I don't know. I'm not sure. It all, every time I think of piracy, it all comes back to the money and the $60 price tag that people aren't willing to pay for brand new games.
Yep. Some people just think that $60 for a game is just not worth it. For those games that are, say, Skyrim, I think a lot of people will buy Skyrim. But again, if you don't have the money, then of course you're gonna pirate it if you want to play Skyrim.
But do you think that can be avoided? What if a developer said, we're not, a game like Skyrim is justified for the $60, but our game is only 6 hours long and doesn't offer any multiplayer or something like that, so we're going to put it out for $35. Do you think piracy would still affect them as much, or do you think they would get more sales?
I think they're going to sell more units, whether or not they make an equal amount of money off of it, because, even though you're selling more units, you're selling them at a lower price. It's that whole business thing of, what price can I get the most sales and make the most money, or, it's that whole balancing act. But I think if you come out with a game and say, look, my game isn't going to destroy Skyrim, and it's not as long as you're not going to play the multiplayer as long as Call of Duty, but it is $35. I think a lot of people, especially in this day and age, are going to jump all over that, and I think piracy is going to decrease as a result of that.
I would agree with that.
I honestly think that piracy is more an issue of service over money. I do think that there are people who don't want to spend the money and they will pirate just because of that reason. Obviously, it's not just a black and white issue, but I think there are a lot of situations where things are just easier to pirate because companies don't make it easy for the end user. They don't respect their time. Like for instance, in the Jimquisition video, Jim Sterling talks about how only 9 games were released, and then other games started. What happened was they said Sony said that you could hook up your PS Vita to your to your PS3.
Whoa, that'd have been cool.
And download games from the PlayStation Network or games that you already have on your system from there and try them out. But they never told anyone what games work, what games don't work. So effectively, all the community is doing Sony's job, having to hook up their systems, hooking up their videos to their PS3 and checking all this stuff. And now, may not be super easy to pirate these games, but if anything, Sony is begging for their games to be pirated in this instance because they're making it so difficult for the end user. Sometimes you just want to play a certain game, like these people just want to play these PS1 games on their Vitas, but they're making them jump through all these hoops that are so unnecessary because Sony doesn't want to take the time to do that. So it's much easier just to go online and get a free emulator and get a free ROM and just play it on your PC.
I think that's an isolated piracy incident. I think if Sony never came out and said that you're going to get 100 games, they're out there, but we're only going to supply you with 9. I think that wouldn't even have been an issue. When I think of piracy, I think of I think of like the Pirate Bay or things like that people are downloading the images and burning them onto CDs and things like that, or modding their Xbox to play pirated games, things like that. I think the Sony incident is a very small part of piracy in general.
I don't know. I think there are other examples on PC. Like, for one small example, for me personally, why I've definitely pirated games, and anyone that tells you that they haven't pirated a game is a total liar.
I have not pirated games.
Okay, Chase is a liar. Have you really not pirated a game?
Yes.
Unless you're an idiot and don't know how to pirate a game.
Okay, if you don't understand it,
I
but
plead the
anyone
fifth.
who can understand how to do it has done it, and this is my reason. And Devin is my witness, and actually all my friends that I game with are my witness on this.
So just me.
Other people have been on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, other people maybe.
Like Brian, he's a good witness.
2 people.
You can attest to this.
I'm the type of gamer that will spend a lot of money on developers that I like. And I think there's a lot of people in the community that will do that. And I think there's a lot of examples through Kickstarter and just through merchandise and stuff like that. People are willing to spend money on companies and games that they feel that are worth it.
Absolutely. If I like something a lot, I'll buy their stuff.
Well, you're going to give them your money because you
Right.
want to support them. I have totally pirated games, but my biggest reason, and a lot of people I think say this, but they are just saying it to kind of act like they don't, I don't know, to make it seem like they're not that bad or whatever. But I pirate games because there aren't more demos of games. That is, honest to God, the truth of why I'll pirate a lot of games. Like, if there's a game that comes out and there's no demo of it for me to try, like, I sometimes, I just want to actually just try the game. I've read reviews, I've seen videos, but I want to get it in my hands. I want to see how it runs. I want to see how it plays. If a developer doesn't give me that service, then yeah, I'm going to pirate your game and play it before I actually buy it. Now, a lot of times, what I'll do, this is why I said Devin as my witness, is that if I like a game, I'll go out and buy it after I've already pirated it and tried it. But if I don't like the game, I usually end up just uninstalling it and not even ever touching it again. And it's as simple as that. And I think that factors into a service issue. Now, I'm not saying I'm the large majority of people like that, but for me personally, and I know other people that I've talked to on the internet and forums and stuff who have talked about this topic do the same exact thing. And I think that is a big thing in the company service that gets overlooked a lot. More demos.
Yeah, more demos. Even if they did fix that and it was a service problem, I don't know how much more profit they'd be getting because they're still not attracting all the people who just pirate because of a money issue. They're getting the few niche group like you who pirates for the fact that there's lack of demos or whatever kind of service.
If you keep fixing all these issues with all these small niche groups, then that eventually is going to start outweighing the money issue at some point. Because I wouldn't say like 80% are pirating because of money and then the rest are just all niche.
I would say it's pretty close to 80, maybe 70%. It's like a money, like no matter what you do, they're going to pirate it. Unless like a Steam sale comes on, because I've pirated games before and like I really liked them and kept them on my PC, but then like a Steam sale would come on for like $10, $15 for the game for a $60 title. I'd be like, well, heck, I'm going to buy it because I'd rather just play it on Steam and have other things work.
But again, that comes back to a service issue because you play that game and say this game is not worth $60. So it's a problem with their service, with their product.
Oh, I guess in that sense, yeah. Because everybody wants to stick a $60 price tag on it.
Because I'm saying, think of your favorite $60 game. Like, you would not pirate your favorite $60 game because you believe it's worth the $60.
Yeah.
If companies are producing products that are worth the money, then it's not going to be a question. There'll still be people who will pirate the games regardless of the quality of the game. I still think those people exist, but I'm saying if they step up their services all around, then that'll cut out a large majority of the piracy.
Because, I mean, I'll play crappy games, but I won't pay for them. You know what I mean? So, like, I'll pirate crappy games to play them, but I would never go out of my way to spend the money on a crappy game, necessarily.
Well, I'm not going to waste my time playing a crappy game anyway. Like, I'll play. That's why I mean I'll try it. If I don't like it, it gets uninstalled. I'm not going to touch it anymore. But I'm not going to keep playing it because, like, oh, I pirated it. It's free.
And I mean, I think a lot of times, I mean, I'll kind of do the reverse effect. Like, I'll pirate games, but things will just go wrong with the pirated version. That I'm like, I'd rather just buy this game. So then I'll just buy it instead, just because I don't have to deal with the problems like co-op problems. Like, we try to play games co-op by pirating, and it's just like, that's not working. Let's just buy the game. Like,
yeah, we've totally done that before.
Yeah.
Because, like, we want to try the game out. There's no way for us, there's no demo, there's no way for us to actually legitimately try it out. So we have to pirate it, and we try to play it, and, like, okay, we just can't get it to work. So I guess we'll just throw down the money and take a chance. And that sucks.
So it has a reverse effect, actually. So we end up buying a game that we actually don't really care to buy.
Yeah, that could really go into last week's discussion about reviews and stuff. Are reviews important? Well, you can make the same argument that demos are important after a game is released or before. Whether that has anything to do with piracy, I mean, I guess for the 20 or 30% it does.
I think, in all honesty, I think that more people, if they knew how to pirate, they would pirate because of stuff like that. Because I've talked to people who have asked me, you know, how do you... They'll say, like, what do you think of this game or that game? And they'll be like, I wish there was a demo of it. You know, I wish there was some way they could try. You know, think about it. Why would anyone pirate a game other than money issues if they could just try a game before they play it? Like, if you could try any game that's out there, then it would squash, you know, any reservations that you have against it.
I think that would help, but...
That may go into a different discussion about, you know, whether developers are do they think that preview videos are what people want, or do they think that, demos are what people want? I think
I think preview videos exist because demos don't exist.
But then you're saying, if you have demos, what's the point of having review videos or release notes? Just play the demo when it comes out, they could say. So I think they're trying to find that line between what's good and what's bad pre-release.
I think they're lazy. Just give me a freaking demo.
Is it a lot harder to release a demo than it is to come up with a preview video?
Yeah.
Probably.
All you gotta do is record some shit and talk on it.
A lot of developers don't do the preview videos. The gaming outlets do that.
Releasing a demo, all you have to do is take something from the game that's already done in the game. I mean, it doesn't have to. The demo doesn't have to come out like 2 years before the game comes out. It could be a few months or even close up to the release date. A lot of games even come out with after it gets released, but still put out the demo. Take a couple missions from your game and just put that exclusively towards a demo. It's already done. I don't think how hard it can be. I don't know how hard it is, but
well, moving away from the demos, but back to just an example of the service issue again. How many games have you played both on Xbox Live or I'm not sure about PSN, but on PC where I might go in through Steam, but then I have to sign in through another client, or I go in to play an EA game on a console, then I have to sign into the EA servers. All these different things I have to jump through. That alone turns me off to a game, and that's something that would make me want to pirate a game.
Yeah, because that gets really annoying because it's now you have to remember your account info for this one specific thing that you may have done years ago for a previous game in the series or something. That is annoying. I would pirate a game for that reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't pirate a game for that reason. I think an extra sign-in screen isn't a reason to pirate a game that I like, but it definitely is annoying.
The games that I like don't do that, though. I can't think of any games I legitimately really like that do that. And I'm not saying that these little things I'm bringing up are the sole reason. Money might be the biggest part of the pie, might be the biggest single group, I guess I should say, of the pie. But I think a lot of these little things, if they would fix a lot of these little service issues, then it wouldn't be as much of an issue. Then piracy wouldn't be as bad. As they think.
Do you think piracy is as bad as the publishers and developers are making it out to be?
Not at all.
Really?
Absolutely. I don't think it's as bad as... First of all, you can't get any actual factual numbers from that. How are they getting these numbers? How is Ubisoft saying... I mean, I mentioned this before, but there's two things that are wrong with the argument. Just looking at Ubisoft's, where they're saying 93 to 95% of their games are being pirated. First of all, you have to assume that those games being pirated were sales in the first place. Some of those aren't even sales in the first place, so you can't count those. It doesn't matter whether piracy existed or not. They were going to buy your game or they're not. Secondly, how do they even get the numbers for this stuff? It's not like Pirate Bay is like, oh, hey, Ubisoft, let me show you our tracking numbers. Let me show you how many people downloaded this, how many times this tracker has been seeded from. No one's going to do that. So all they're doing is guesswork. They're just making estimations, keeping probably tracks on how many people they see seeding and stuff like that. But I think the larger issue is that it's just a big excuse to say why some of their games aren't selling as well.
Yeah, the main problem with this is some guy in marketing with a big-ass head says, our projected numbers are 16.8 million units, when in reality it's 2.3. You know what I'm saying? So some dude is skewing these numbers to the point where, a couple thousand or, whatever, people who are pirating this game, that wasn't even going to sell in the first place, that people don't even want. They're just pirating it just to play it. Skews the numbers, and, Ubisoft comes out with a high 90s, mid 90s percentage. I think it's good PR. Any PR is good PR, I guess.
Well, I kind of agree just because I don't know where their statistics are coming from, but they're getting them from somewhere because they're acting like they're all surprised because it's very high. They actually gave numbers 93% of their games were being pirated.
So you believe it because the numbers are high?
No. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying like where are they getting these numbers from? They can't just be making up stuff. They have to be backing up from somewhere. And they said like 7%.
I'm sure they're not just pulling it out of their butts, but I'm sure it's not any
I don't
hard
think it's
science.
that high. Because I don't think that many people know how to pirate. I mean, I think a lot of people do, but I don't think the majority of people know how to pirate.
I think there's no good number that they could have thrown out there. I think if they would have came and said 20% of our projected sales have been pirated, and people are going to say, wow, that's really high, or wow, you really overshot what you said.
Well, that doesn't sound as bad as like 95.
Right, but then you say 95 because it's such a shocking number that people are like, it may stop some people, and it may bring attention to the fact that, wow, maybe there is a really big community out there that pirates games.
Maybe there's a good reason that they're pirating your games.
I think there's a bigger community of people who buy legit games than there are pirating games, though.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there aren't many people that, even though there's a lot of information out there aren't a lot of people that know how to pirate games. Even people who I would say are fairly computer savvy still don't know how to pirate games. Again, I think it just comes back to they don't want to admit that, like, hey, maybe we didn't put out a good game. Maybe our numbers are off. So, like, let's look at what they're pirating. Let's, like, throw together some fake math. And
Fake math. Math is never fake, Jared. Jeez,
They're faking it when they're putting in just random numbers and stuff like that, and they're just guessing. I'm sure all of it's guesswork. I guarantee it. I guarantee they're just going in thinking, like...
It's estimation, not guesswork.
Same difference. They're going in, but they don't have any hard evidence. They don't have any hard factual numbers to know how many people are pirating anything. At that point, it's irrelevant what they think they're not. What you think your numbers are and what your numbers actually are, it's irrelevant what you think it might be. Like, who cares what you think it might be? You could, of course, they're not going to say, like, only 2% of our games are being pirated. Because that wouldn't even be news. They wouldn't talk about that if it was that low. But if they make it sound like 95%, then it's like, oh, it's horrible. We're falling apart not because our company sucks and because we're making bad games, but because everyone's pirating our good, perfect games. It's like, no, maybe some of your games suck, Ubisoft, because they do.
Well, that's obvious to the three of us, but what you can't argue is that no one pirates games. And I think in the gaming industry right now, developers and publishers are struggling with the fact that there are people out there who can get and can distribute their games for free. And I think that because it's generally a new craze sweeping the nation, I think that they're freaking out a little bit. I really do. And they don't know how to handle it.
Well, what do you think are some of the things that they could do to combat piracy?
Make better games.
Yeah, like I said before with Notch, the creator of Minecraft, I think it all comes down to the community and your image, the way you're perceived from the community. I think if you take a strong stance against piracy, it's gonna increase. It's like telling a 5-year-old no. Don't jump on the bed. What's that 5-year-old want to do even more? Jump on the bed.
I don't think I've ever pirated a game because someone told me not to pirate a game.
Don't pirate this game. Holy crap, I gotta pirate this thing.
I'm gonna pirate that game if I want to.
But I think on the other side of that, if a gaming company says, look, we just try and make the best games out there. If you want to pirate it, we're not gonna stop you. But if you enjoy it, please give us some sort of monetary compensation, or please, talk well about it. We really respect that. We really, we really enjoy when people enjoy our games. I think that is probably the best thing that they can do. People are going to turn around and support them. The World of Goo is a good example of that.
Truthfully, I think if you make a good product, people are going to support you. Piracy is going to happen no matter what. There's no such thing as, like, piracy is never going to go away.
No.
But I think if you make a good product and you are selling it for a good price, I think that's a big issue as well. because both of those are an issue. Both service and money are an issue. I think that piracy would start to dwindle. I think there's, like I said before, there will always be that group that always pirates and never pays for anything. But I think a lot of people out there would pay a lot more if it was at a reasonable price, if it was a good service or a good product. I mean, like for example, I tried to bring this up before, but it didn't really work. But the company 2D Boy made this game called World of Goo, and that game supposedly they said it got pirated like crazy, and they didn't really make that many sales, and it was a very good game, but they were selling it for $20 at the time. Now there was a certain point where they put it on sale for a pay what you want, and you could pay 1 cent up to however much you'd like. And people were paying $50. Some people were only paying a penny. I mean, it varied. It was all over the place. But if you look at it that way, let's say 80% of their sales originally were pirated, and they only made like 20% of actual revenue from that. By doing this, they effectively have turned everyone that might have pirated it into a sale. Even if it's just a penny, it's some type of compensation that they're getting for it. And by the end of that sale that went on, they actually end up making more money than they did on the original release by selling it at full price at $20. So do you think, now this wouldn't work with every company, but do you think if companies started pricing their products accordingly, do you think that would help combat piracy at all?
I don't think the pay what you want would work for any big name company, for sure. If their game is already...
Nor would they ever try it.
Yeah, they would never try it. But if a game was supposed to come out for $60, next Call of Duty or Dead Space, whatever next game that they're trying to come out with, if it came out for $60, that was their price point, but did the pay what you want, out of all the sales that they're forcing people to pay $60 for, that people are actually paying for, I think those people will start paying like less money. So it's not going to be a matter of piracy. It's just people who have to pay the $60 won't pay it anymore. So that's not the right way to go. But just changing the price point would help for a lot of the smaller games, not the big AAA titles that people already know that they're going to sell. I think that would stop piracy.
Well, I mean, maybe not for like Call of Duty and stuff like that, but
yeah,
I'm talking about
games.
Maybe some of those midpoint games where a game comes out like Rayman Origins, and some would argue like that game's worth $60, but if they say like, hey, we're gonna put it out for 40 or for 30 because we believe it's a good product, but maybe it's not $60 worth.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people would not pirate it and would be willing to throw down $30 over $60.
Yeah.
To try that.
That's kind of funny you brought up that example because I said the exact same thing to my girlfriend when we were out. I saw Rayman Origins. I was like, man, if that game would have just came out for like $30, I probably would have bought it on day one. But I'm not going to buy it for full price like that because I just don't think it's worth it. And if developers would know that that's kind of how much their game is worth and put it out for that much, then I think they would have got a lot more sales from it.
You're effectively telling the developers to admit that their game is worth half of everyone else's.
Yes.
But, like, that's a bad stigma, though, that we've kind of created in the gaming industry. Like, if you see... Because, think about it. When you go out and look... maybe not us, but maybe when we were younger or other people when they go out and they look at the store shelves and they see a game that came out for, like, 20 or $30, you immediately thought, that game probably sucks.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, if we could get past that and kind of, realize that, maybe what I'm offering isn't worth, like the developers say or the publishers say, maybe what I'm offering, we think it's an amazing quality game, but maybe it's not $60 worth. That doesn't mean it's any worse than a $60 game. You're just not offering $60. I mean, think about it. Like the features that are in a certain vehicle or the quality that it's made at, or the amount of money it took to make that vehicle. All vehicles aren't paid at the same price. Depending on the features and different things like that, they're priced accordingly. If we could start doing that with video games, I think that would help cut out another area of piracy. All right, well, there's just one last quick point I wanted to address that I think we kind of talked a little bit, but do you ever feel like piracy is ever justified? I'm not saying that you would ever start like a campaign and say like, hey, go start pirating this game, but do you ever feel like companies are asking for it, or is it something that that shouldn't happen regardless? I know we've all pirated, but...
I've never pirated. I just want to reiterate that.
Except for Chase.
Yeah, I may have once, but then I deleted it.
That one time in
college. But it was Minesweeper. I couldn't get to run.
Spider Solitaire.
No one plays that game.
Spider Solitaire is bullshit anyway.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That
I
game.
hate that game.
I don't even understand how to play it.
If your game sucks,
God.
I'm allowed to pirate it. That's my rule.
I think piracy is justified only when, no matter what the cost of the game, even if it went on sale for 75% off, if you weren't gonna play it, if you had to pay for it, I think it's justified. That's the only reason I would say it was justified.
And if you don't have
If you
money.
weren't going to pay for it at all?
If you weren't gonna pay for it, even if it went on sale, not the $60 price tag, not half off, right? If you didn't want to spend $10, or $5 for an indie game or whatever, if you weren't going to spend that kind of money for a game at all, then it would be justified.
Devin?
If you don't feel like buying it, then you can just pirate it.
That it's justified?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't feel like it, just pirate it.
I don't think it's ever justified. I mean, that's just, you're just stealing away from the company no matter how terrible they may be. It's never justified. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It's like, is it ever justified that if you can't feed your family that you go and steal bread from a store? Like, that kind of moral dilemma thing. It's not as bad, but, like, still, it's never justified. It's bad. It's wrong. You shouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. I mean, the only times I ever feel like it's justified is when, as a company, I've said this before, maybe this is just me because I'm hung up on the whole demo thing, but I want to try your game, let me try your game. I shouldn't have to purchase your game just to try it. So that's something that's a big pet peeve of mine. But there's one other little thing, and I don't think any companies are worrying about this because they're mostly talking about new games, but what about like old games? What do you think of old games that aren't available anymore, that you can't get them on Steam, or the companies don't make them readily available through through emulators and stuff like that? Do you feel like that stuff is okay?
Do you consider emulation piracy?
More or less.
Well, I mean, it depends. What if I already own the game on something? Is it justified then? Like, what if you already own the game or something like that, and maybe your friend broke it or something, or something happened to it where you can't play it anymore? Is it justified then for you to pirate? Because, like, hey, technically I already own this game. I already paid my debt to the developer.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's I think would be different than anything that I would say. But like if I want to play a Super Nintendo game and I can't find a Super Nintendo anywhere, and the only way I can play it is through emulation, then I don't consider that piracy.
What about something more recent? I mean, I know, like, I have Silent Hill 4 here with me, and that came out on the Xbox and the PS2 and the PC. And I'll say you want to play the PC version, but you can't find that anywhere, and Konami hasn't made it readily available for digital download or anything like that. But you're willing to pay the money if you could get your hands on it, but you couldn't anyway get your hands on it. Do you feel like piracy is justified in that case?
Yes.
Devon?
I don't like these moral questions and stuff. Wait. You have the money, but wait, how are you pirating it then if it's not available on the PC?
No, it is available on PC, but you can't find it on any system. So you say, like, I would love to give Konami my money and buy this game, but you haven't made it available to me in any form. So Silent Hill 4 is not a good example because you can find that easily, but I'm just saying.
So you already own it on something, though, right?
No, you don't own it. You want to buy it, though. You can't find it. Hypothetically, there are games like this, though. Like, I mean, you're not gonna...
Oh, there's games like that that are just so popular, like, even if you want to buy it on eBay, it's just thousands of dollars. Well, at that point, it doesn't really matter, because no matter what, you're not going to be able to pay the developer who made it 20 years ago. So, yeah, pirate it. I mean, you're only going to be giving money to some other user who has already owned the game or whatever. So if there's no way to get it, you might as well pirate it. There's no way to give your contribution to a developer.
Anyway, let's wrap this crap up. This was episode 48 of Between the Pixels. You can find all of our information, Twitter, Facebook, junk like that. That's all at pixelperfectmag.com. We have new articles going up every day, news. Justin actually wrote this very good article entitled
Raising Clementine.
Why the Telltale's The Walking Dead is the best game ever, or one of the best games ever created. It's really good read. You should check it out. Again, if you haven't played The Walking Dead, you obviously need to play that. But that's just an example of one of the weekly articles that Justin does called An Inverted View. We have a lot of other stuff. Ben Novak does a weekly list called The Pixel List, which he does like a top 5, top 4, top 10 list of something video game related. Of course, you have the podcast. We have videos going out on YouTube, youtube.com/pixelperfectmag. If you have any questions or you want to give us your opinion or anything about the podcast, you can email us, podcast@pixelperfectmag.com. Any final words for the people of Devon?
Dude, vote for Steam Greenlight.
Register to vote for the election.
Yeah, that too.
Chase, any final words for the people?
A squid's eye can get as big as a basketball.
I want more demos. See you next week. You remember that guy who died in the elephant feces a while ago?
What? No.
He was working at a park and his job was to wash the elephants, and he's behind him, and if you've ever seen an elephant poop, it poops a lot and it's heavy, and it fell right on him, knocked him down, and then like fell on him and suffocated him. Suffocated him.
That seems really unlikely.
Hey, how did Bill die? An elephant shat on him.
Guy suffocates
Bill who?
an elephant. It was just a name, Devin.
Thanks for getting that, Jared. Appreciate it.
Elephant defecates on man. Man dies after being burned alive beneath 200 pounds of elephant feces.
200 pounds? Holy crap!
Literally.
What a way to go out. It's a real crapshoot. He was sure I was having a crappy day. I bet a lot of people will give him crap for that one. Right? Right?
His favorite thing to do in Vegas is play craps.
Now you're just stretching it.
Yeah, I killed it. Thanks.
His favorite thing from DQ was the mudslide.
It doesn't even have crap in it. Now you're stretching it.
Mudslide. Pooping mudslide. Poop slide.
Who calls pooping mudslides?
Well, like if it's in your underwear, creates a mudslide.
His favorite part of the show was poop deck.
Now you're just saying stuff with poop in it, Devin. No. That joke was a real stinker.
No, you got it too far. Too far.
Stingrays are beasts, man.
What's the last thing that the crocodile hunter said? Oh, a stingray.